At the Helm is brought to you by BoatUS. Better boating starts here.
So it happens to all of us. You get that little ding, but sometimes it's not so little and it jumps out at you. You need some gel coat repair. The BoatUS pros are here with some DIY tips.
Hi, I'm Mark Cork from BoatUS magazine, and today I'm going to walk you through the steps necessary to do a repair to the top sides or other vertical surface on gel coat. So these prior repairs look horrible. They diminish the value of the boat and they're just so unsightly, and also over time they can allow water to penetrate the gel coat and the laminate. So I'm going to go about fixing this up. So I've already washed the boat down, but the next step is just to wipe down with some acetone to make sure the surface is completely clean and remove any surface contaminants, wax, or anything else that's going to mar the finish and spoil it. So before we can even think about applying any gel coat, we have to ensure that the surface is fair, and clearly right now it isn't. So what I'm going to do is sand this down. I'm using a 180 grit in a random orbit sander, so we'll make sure it's smooth, and then we can fill any humps and hollows, and then we'll apply the gel. So with the sounding out of the way, I'm just going to give it another wipe down with acetone, just to remove any remaining dust or dirt that's left on there. So my filler is now properly mixed. I'm going to head back on the boat and fill the holes. So we're just going to trowel a little bit of filler, squeeze it into the holes. It's easy to sand, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit proud, but you don't want to go too crazy with it. I've left the filler to harden for about an hour or so, and now, as you can see, it's ready to sand. So I'm going to use the same grit paper that I did before. It's a 180 grit paper, and I'm just going to sand this down until it's flush with the surrounding gel coat. I'm going to vacuum up, and then I'm going to wipe it down with acetone again. We're ready to start decanting the gel coat now, and you can see I've got a huge gallon can of it here. This is already pre-coloured to match the boat, but it's not exactly right. I know from past experience I'm going to need to add some extra colour to this. But a little syringe like this is a good way to decant it without spilling it everywhere. Well, I'm using pre-coloured gel coat, and it should be an exact match to the boat. And I'm just dabbing a little piece on there. There's no catalyst in it yet. I'm just dabbing a piece on it to check the colour. It's not bad, but I might need to add just a little bit of extra tint just to take that down and make it a perfect match. I've catalysed the gel coat, and now using a foam brush I'm going to paint it on just as you would paint. You can go a little thicker, and we just want to make sure that we cover all the area that we sanded earlier. With the gel coat applied, I'm using this. You can hardly see it, I'm sure. It's actually Mylar film, which is available from the local stationery store. And I spread that on. And this does two things. It excludes the air and gives me a nice smooth finish. And it will hold itself on. There's a sufficient stickiness in the gel coat to hold it in place. If you find that it does move around, you might want to add a couple of bits of tape, but otherwise it'll be perfectly fine. So we're just going to leave that now and let that set up, and then we'll come back, peel that off, and we can finish the repair. So I left the gel coat to harden overnight, and now I'm going to peel off the Mylar covering. Now, as you can see, that's left a fairly smooth finish, but I've still got to do some sanding. And I'm using 220 grit wet and dry paper wrapped around a foam block, because if I just use my fingers we'd put ridges in it, and that's not what we need. So I've finished sanding with 220 grit. I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down, and then I'm going to swap to 400 grit. You probably can't hear that, but I can, and it definitely sounds a lot finer. So I'm using 400 grit now just to get rid of the scratches left behind from the coarser paper. With the sanding out of the way, I'm now using a coarse foam pad with some compound on it, and I'm going to buff out the scratches. With the compounding out of the way, I've changed the foam pad to a finer pad, and I put some polish on that. I just need to spread that around a little bit before I pull the trigger, and this will take out the scratches from the compounding. So with the compounding and glaze out of the way, I'm just adding a little wax now just to protect the final repair. So there you have it. We spent a few hours and we've got rid of that horrible nasty mess on the side of the boat, and I think you'd agree that the repair blends seamlessly with the existing boat. Hopefully you've learnt something too.
That might just be a little above my DIY level, but I'm sure many of DIY drifters are plenty capable of taking it on. So go for it. For more At the Helm with BoatUS, visit driftsociably.com.
BoatUS has been looking after the interests of recreational boaters for over 55 years. Our goal? To make boating better, safer, and worry-free. From coast to coast and over 600 towboats strong, the Towboat US fleet is the nation's largest. So when you need help on the water, you're not alone. For a day of worry-free boating, take us with you by downloading the BoatUS app to get a tow or check weather and tides. Better boating starts here. Join today.